All right.
Yeah.
So I guess it's time.
Here we are.
Time to start. Yeah, so that was a trailer for Gabriel, which we showed along with an episode of Barely Biblical the first night.
Yeah.
It was really fun.
Yeah.
Mr. Tim.
Yeah. So I think what we could do is maybe start about why we're in animation. And I think we both have a lot of the same inspiration.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Dragon Ball.
Yeah, so I mean, as a kid, I just loved cartoons. I was just a cartoon kid. Every Saturday morning, I was, with my bowl of cereal, a bowl of cat.
That's when you started talking. I was thinking about my cereal.
Eat cat.
I was a Fruity Pebbles guy.
Yeah, me and the Crunch, watching Thundercats and Turtles and Silverhawks.
Oh yeah.
All that good stuff.
And I'd be watching, I'd be like, we didn't know what I'm saying. As a kid, we'd watch.
Would be cool though.
This
They can watch
right?
cartoons together.
This stuff is different. Some shows like Voltron, I was like, why does Voltron look different than other shows? And why does Speed Racer and all these shows, they're a little bit different. Even Mysterious Cities of Gold.
Oh, dude, I love that cartoon.
And I'm watching it and I'm like, there's something different. This is story driven, this is character driven, the look is something different than Bugs Bunny. Now, I love Bugs Bunny, I love Looney Tunes, I love all the classic Warner stuff. I grew up on Tiny Toons and Animaniacs and Pinky and the Brain. So, all of that got combined.
Yeah. Something about, for sure, like, I remember the Thundercats intro particularly as being like, what is going on there? And then, for me, there was a little cartoon called Superbook. That was for church kids. You probably watched Superbook. But it was actually animated by a Japanese studio.
It was animated.
I met the guy who created, I actually worked with the guy who created Superbook, the original Superbook. His name was Warren Marcus. He's passed away sadly now, but he actually, when I first got started, didn't know anything. I came up with the idea for Gabriel Guardians during COVID and had no idea what to do. I didn't know anything about the industry. I never worked in animation. And just the Lord opened a crazy door where I got to go and work as art director on a show that he was working on. And so I worked really closely with Warren for a couple years and learned the ins and the outs of creating an animated series. But he told me the whole backstory of how he went over to Japan.
Yeah, I actually met him.
Did you meet Warren? Oh.
And I'm like, I made sure we were sitting at the same table. And I know that sounds like really bad at a funeral, but it's the glory of God. And it turned out great because of my family's primary thing right now is ministry to the Japanese. We serve with second level ministry, which is a Japanese discipleship ministry. And I am the media advisor. We do animation production as well as art and discipleship materials. And so the tie to anime when I was a kid, and especially animation in general, when I was 10, I decided I wanted to be an animator. And it was mostly because of The Simpsons, and that's when I first realized this is a job that people do. And so I started to get books on the best animation in the world, which at that time was Walt Disney and Japanese animation. So I started getting these Japanese animation books, and I'm like, I can't read this stuff. So that's when I started to study Japanese language, started to get interested in all. And then when I turned 21, I ended up coming to Christ, and looking back, I was like, oh, there's a reason for everything that I've been experiencing up until now. I learned that the Japanese are less than 1% Christian, and that they are very inspired by animation. I don't know if you know, but the #1 movies in Japan are animated films. Spirited Away dethroned Titanic as the highest grossing movie, and then that was recently dethroned by Demon Slayer, and then again by Demon Slayer. And it's just amazing how animation in Japan crosses all of the age ranges. It's not seen as something for children.
Yeah, for sure. I think that for me, we talk about Samurai Pizza Cats. I remember watching Samurai Pizza Cats, and then a little show called Dragon Ball when I got a little bit older, and that that was the moment when I was like, oh my god. For me, it started with like, I was actually huge on Flintstones and Scooby-Doo, and I remember those were the first cartoons that made me think about animation as a like, I was like, oh, someone's drawing this.
Yeah, when you see the mistakes.
Yeah,
really,
particularly
it's a human made.
Yeah, it's in those mistakes. It's in, and you see little things, and you're like, oh, someone drew this stuff, and that's where I first started thinking about like, I want to be someone that makes this stuff. But then, yeah, when Dragon Ball came out, and at least when we got it, I remember at first it was like on in the afternoons on Fox. Like it was it was Dragon Ball, not Dragon Ball.
I woke up at like 5:36
in the morning. And it was like the same 6 episodes over and over. They just looped these same 6 episodes of Dragon Ball. But man, I loved it.
So for me, I actually in middle school, friends started
anything
to
that goes wrong, burn down.
Sure. Yeah.
So and the first Dragon Ball I ever watched was in Chinese.
Really?
Because that was the only I could get.
Yeah. Well, there was a whole phase that, like, for sure, like, once I got a couple years older, and then I found some other people who liked Dragon Ball. And then they introduced me to Dragon Ball Z. I didn't even know that was
right, yeah, absolutely.
And I was like, Dragon Ball Z? And it was VHSs. And then we got into that whole thing of, like, going to, like, Sam Goody.
Yeah.
Like, once a month, when they put out the...
You guys do not know what it was like being an animator in the 90s, because... We're talking like $40 a tape to buy it.
Yeah,
that's
for
like
3 episodes. And then you'd have to wait another 4 months, 5 months for the next cassette to hit the States.
So we live in a golden age, right?
Yeah, content is available. So let me ask you this. This thing got planted in your heart, I wanna work in animation. And were you able to do it?
I told my parents I want to be an animator when I grow up. And my mom said, that's ridiculous. You should look into math. You're really good at math. And my dad said, well, he told my sister, she wanted to be a cheerleader. And he's like, well, you can do anything you want to do as long as you're willing to put in the work. And she did it. She ended up being she coached in the Rose Bowl.
Wow.
Cheerleading coach, but still.
Yeah.
And then, my dad said you can be anything you want as long as you're willing to put in the work. And so, it is work. It's not easy. I did go to school for animation. They didn't hardly teach me anything. The best thing I learned there was brute force drawing humans again and again and again. And but then working under masters, I worked under Rusty Mills. I worked under a guy named Michael Benet. He was one of the animators of Stitch in Lilo and Stitch. And on TV shows, working with them, hearing their stories, and that's the most important thing I think you get from mentorship, is hearing the industry stories. Rusty Mills brought animation to the digital realm. He was doing digital on Animating Max in the 90s with Photoshop, and they were telling him it's too expensive to do this kind of stuff, and he was like, watch me, and he outdrew people who were drawing on paper, and they were like, okay, so they started to incorporate it because of him. Wacko's Wish, I believe, was the first animated film that had a digital animation. It kind of like a massive film that some of them, but both were wonders. Yeah. But I believe Rusty was the catalyst for that. Wow. Being able to work under him, sadly he also passed away a few years ago. But the mentorship is the key thing, I think, because what you learn in school, it doesn't matter. And YouTube is way better than animation school right now. If you need to make a choice about where to spend your money, spend it on YouTube.
I have YouTube Premium.
100% in alignment with that. I've had people ask like, what school should I go? Don't go to the school of the internet, because it's all there and it's all free for the most part. And if you're willing to spend a few $100, you can get some really
absolutely yes
teachers and mentors. And it's interesting because my path went really different. Being from the Midwest, being from Ohio, I really was pretty convinced I was going to start my own studio. Like I had just so many IPs, characters and things that I was like, I'll become an adult and then I'll just start making cartoons. And then I became an adult and I started working at Walmart. And
said,
I started cutting meat and worked in the deli for years. And that I tried to get freelance jobs doing, anything, illustration. And I got, man,
This is hitting a little too close to home. I start out at McDonald's.
I want to say this because my first job at a real studio, I applied to be a truck driver. And I went in, talked to the president of the company, the studio. He's like, why do you want to drive a truck for me? You're an animator, you're an artist, video production. I said, well, I figure I'll drive the truck until the job opens up in the animation group, and then I'll move up. And he said, well, one just opened up.
Wow, dude.
So,
yeah,
don't be ashamed to go work at Walmart or anywhere else, because you learn things there too.
I think that's what it takes. For me, though, I think I really saw, and in Ohio, there aren't a lot of animation jobs. And I just got to a place in my life, got married, had a kid, and was like, I don't think I want to move out to a coast or anything like that. And at that time, that was it. That was really the option, is to go to Florida or go to Cali. And so I found a path in e-learning, where I was able to do some animation. Never went to school, not for animation. I did go to business at college for graphic design for like 12 months, but outside of that, I didn't really have any kind of formal education. But I kind of hopped into that like mid-2000s Flash animation internet craze, and like the Homestar Runner days, Newgrounds. Yeah, and so yeah. Webkins. This is a website.
I love Webkins. Don't diss on Webkins.
Strong bad. And so I started making web animation. Actually, the first thing I ever did was a Dragon Ball fan animation in Flash. And then I did that for a long time, and after a couple of years, I ended up getting an actual freelance job doing web animation for a startup company that was doing health and wellness. And they had a mascot that was a starfish named Starwell, and they were looking for someone to do like a weekly webtoon for their website. And so I started there as a freelancer. Eventually, they hired me on full time, and I started making that and making like interactive e-learning. And that just was natural.
That's the funny thing is I was doing e-learning as well too. There's a lot more opportunity to step into animation production in e-learning. So if that's somewhere, if you're looking for a chance to break into the industry, start in e-learning. There's a lot of opportunities.
E-learning is a great career. I ended up being in e-learning for 20 years. I ended up landing at JP Chase, and I worked in their innovative e-learning department for 15 years.
And it feels like you're not really there because so few people actually see what you make, whether it's hundreds or thousands of people, but that's the best place to make mistakes and to try and...
Really, I became a bit of a jack of all trades in that. Because it's like, you would be handed a project and you just take it from storyboards to final and whatever, And so I ended up, learning to be a video editor.
Voice actors and everything like that, and you learn how to do what you need to do when you need to do it.
But the dream of like working in the animation industry, I pretty much just kind of put to bed until COVID hit. And then I was still working it. Don't tell Chase. I was working there, like they were paying me. They sent everybody home. But there was really no work to do. Like for 2 years, I'd say easily a good 2 years, I had like maybe 10 hours of work every week. And so, idle hands. And I just started goofing off again with doing a lot of drawing. We started doing family drawing time. And at the same time, I got fascinated with the book of Genesis. And I just started drawing Genesis characters, and that became this pitch idea, and I kind of stumbled into this industry by accident. But I think that what I learned was, there came a moment where I remember praying to the Lord, and I was like, God, like, there's a lot of weird opportunities, like you're kind of laying these breadcrumbs out, but I just kind of feel like, I intentionally sort of surrendered this dream. I gave this up. And the Lord was like, I never asked you to do that.
Yeah.
Like, now's the time.
I've got a couple testimonies on that regard because when you get into the e-learning, you start to get asked to do other things. And I was doing a lot of web projects where I was doing a lot of coding, which I can do, but I hate to do. And I was dying from stress because code breaks. Where's the typo? It breaks everything. And one night, my wife and I just stopped and we're like, what are we doing? What is the goal? And I was like, well, really, I just want to make information, nothing else. And she said, well, then let's lift that up to the Lord. We prayed that night. The very next day, I got a call from a studio to do a 10-episode animation. I was within a lot of money. Within a week, they sent me a check, and that really confirmed, obviously, that it's okay to stop doing these things that I didn't want to do, put it aside and focus.
I think that that's awesome. And I think that what I've learned is if you have something that's really in your heart, the word says that the Lord places the desires of your heart. Like he gives them to you. And what I take back to me is actually, he's the one who is, if you have a desire in your heart, it is a God-given desire. Like if it's pure and true, and obviously it's something that you know is good, I think it's there because the Creator put that in you. Unique.
And it may just be a seed that's growing in you, and it keeps itching.
You have to grow it.
And you got to keep growing. As was spoken last night, spiritual disciplines, you got to grow in the Lord, because something I pray that I pray is, if success, if money will ever cause me to fall, like many of my heroes have fallen, then I don't want it, Lord. So
yeah, I think that like the parable of the talents, right? Like you have an opportunity to either take what the Lord has placed in you and grow it and nurture it, or bury it and just offer exactly what you were given, but without any multiplication, and that's not of the Lord. And so I realized that what I had done was there was this thing that he put in me, the thing that I was, I think, made for, and I had kind of buried it, and the Lord said, I never told you, let's dig it up, resurrect it, because I never told you to do that. But I also think there's a timing thing. So I think that it was actually also a grace that I didn't get what I wanted in my 20s, because I actually don't know that I had the character to sustain at that point. And so trust the Lord. If you have a dream that you don't feel like it's coming to fruition now, know that this is a God of eternity. And just because what you want isn't happening right now doesn't mean it's not going to happen. It doesn't mean that he's not for you and with you and working right behind the scenes to line up this perfect thing for you.
I had actually, just before Barely happened, I gave up animation to the Lord, and I was like, I'm going to stop animation completely and focus on our ministry to Japanese. And whatever you want to do with this, Lord, do it. 2 months later, a friend of mine was coming to here in Orlando to do a Christian film festival event, and they invited me to come, and I was like, I don't want to go, it's like $600, I don't want to spend the money. And she said, just give it a shot. I went there, and they're taking pitches, and I had my Barely pitch, and I told a lot of people there, I'm going to pitch this. Everyone said don't pitch it. They said it's too violent, moms aren't going to like it. And then one of the studios stood up on the stage and said, we're here for the thing no one else in this room would buy. Horror movie, zombie, you got a Christian zombie movie? Come to us. So I was like, okay, it was day 2. I didn't bring my Barely stuff back because I thought no one ever wanted it. I was literally told, don't bring it. And I said, so I don't have anything but my sketchbook. Showed them some sketches, gave them the pitch, and it was the only thing picked up at the whole conference. It was on a contract.
Wow.
I checked that week. So.
That's awesome. I had it's funny because the story that you told before, this idea of like trusting the Lord and I had a moment where I was trying to decide what I was supposed to do, and I ended up like going, okay, well, like if you're opening this window back up, and I'm supposed to you're saying this is what I was made to do, okay, fair enough. And I told this story earlier. I had an opportunity with Gabriel and Guardians through a group called Franklin Entertainment. They were helping me pitch it and kind of craft it. This was like early days, like when I first came up with the idea, and I got connected with this group. They're like a concept production group out of LA, and they had a first look deal with Paramount Plus, and then they had really strong connections with Netflix, and they were like, hey, we've got someone at Netflix that really likes Gabriel Guardians, and they're very interested in sort of moving forward there. And
one of the top executives at Netflix is a Christian.
Yeah.
Many people don't think that's possible, but it is.
Yeah. And so they were really interested, and but what I was told was like, hey, because you've never done this before, you have literally no experience in Hollywood at all. Like, they're just gonna buy it from you, absolutely, and they're gonna make the show. They like the idea. They think it's a great idea. They think it could make money, and there's an audience for it. And so what they're gonna do is buy it from you. And I was like, oh, so then I won't be involved anymore. And they're like, yeah, no, you get credit. And so I had to really go and decide whether or not. But I felt like this was, again, something that the Lord had given me to steward and grow. And so I actually went back and said, no, hey, thank you guys so much, but no. And then, and it was after I felt like the Lord had said, you can do this. You can actually sell it to Netflix because I gave this to you. And I'm not going to micromanage what you do with it. So if you want to sell it to Netflix, sell it to Netflix, and I will bless it. Like, it is a blessed project. So it'll go and be blessed. Or if you want to invite me in to be a partner with you, we'll build a studio. We'll do that thing that you wanted, when you were a kid.
It's something that you often hear in the industry is don't pitch your babies. And that is the thing that you want to be yours and you don't want to lose it. You don't pitch it, because if somebody buys it, it's not yours anymore, and it's like adopting it with your child.
So I ended up going back and saying no, thank you.
No to Netflix.
And what the Lord said was, I actually said, Lord, I don't know how to start an animation studio. I was like, I literally am unqualified. I was like, I'm qualified. I don't know. I've never worked in animation, like not real animation. And the Lord was like, literally the words were, I'll give you a crash course in animation. Wouldn't you know it? I was like, okay, I'm in. And then within a month, or like maybe 2 months max, I had a job offer with Warren Marcus to come on as an art director, having zero experience in animation. I went and met with the company, and I was like, I have never worked as an art director. I've never worked in animation. I've never made a cartoon. And they were like, well, neither have we, so we'll figure it out together. They were like, we'll learn together. And I was like, crash course. And it was. My goodness, yeah. So.
Yeah. So we're at the halfway mark.
Nice.
Do you think we should
do some
questions?
Yeah, and I want to say this is the studio for us. The Colossal Entertainment is what we've been able to build, and so it's been fun.
It looks so delectable.
Probably good to do some questions.
Are there any questions? If not, we can just rattle on for another half an hour. Okay then.
The question.
Yeah.
Could you explain a little bit more about what e-learning is exactly? Is that what you were talking about with just using YouTube videos to learn, or is it something else?
I'm sorry, but I can't exactly hear you.
Explain what e-learning is.
Oh, okay. So e-learning is, if you, let's say you go to McDonald's for a job, they used to teach you how to manage the fries and things like that, and then they realized that their managers were taken away from the works before teaching, so they created videos. And they started, sit down and watch these 3-hour videos. I worked at McDonald's when I was in high school, and I watched hours and hours of how to make hamburgers, how to work the cash register. At that time, it was a VHS tape. You could pause and rewind, but you couldn't really, there was no questions, anything like that. E-learning is that taken into a computer. Usually companies will use it to teach things, but you also can, if you buy one of those how to be an animator, right, courses, it will include videos as well as questions and notes and things like that for you to, so that has to be built by somebody. The videos have to be made, and a lot of things are, you can't just bring a camera and film it, you actually have to build it with animation, or at least like motion comic, something like that, to be able to present that information to the learner. And so that's where e-learning comes in. It's a little bit interactive, it's not a video game, and it is not an animation, although it may include clips of animation.
Yeah, usually, like this was in 2002, 2003, I worked at Walmart.
Holy
The first
crap,
thing I had to do was
I was
hop
born
on
in 2002.
computers in the back and take what they called CBLs, which were computer-based learning. It was another name for e-learning, and that was actually where I went, oh, someone made these. They're terrible. I could make better ones.
I actually produced one for Walt Disney World not too long ago, and it was about active shooters and what to do at Disney World. So let me just say, if you are a guest at Disney World and something's going down, hide and run, because the cast members are told not to do anything to help you. They're there to take care of themselves first, which is good. It's good. At least they're taking care of themselves.
What do the cast members expect to do in this situation? I dip, I run.
Everybody needs it.
I'm not getting paid enough to save.
E-learning is, it's actually really cool. I think it's a great place to learn media, especially if you don't know. There's a lot of companies either have internal e-learning or they're hiring an external company that makes e-learning, and so there's a good chance that whatever city you live close to, there's some companies that have either e-learning departments or they're an e-learning company that builds training. And it's pretty, at Chase, we literally had a video team, an actual studio with a green screen. I worked in there. It had a psych wall that was painted green and lighting and all that. And it was all just to make training videos for Chase, for branches. And then you would have people who would build games. And a lot of times you actually can learn it all. So it's a nice little insulated
It's like a tiny studio that you get to work at.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, the people you're working with are not going to be innovators, but when you bring up a new idea and say, I can do this, they allow you to do it. So you're able to go out to YouTube or something like that, follow some tutorials, learn how to do something, and then bring it to the table, and you've leveled up the company, people start noticing you. It goes along.
Yeah. Any other questions? We got one over here.
Of course, behind me. I was behind you where you weren't looking. I was curious because I saw kind of a big name voice actor on that list. How did that come about? What's your process for getting those and vetting that out?
Yeah.
You want to start?
Sure. So for me, again, I think there's a blessing in not knowing how the industry works, because you don't know what are supposed to be closed doors or locked doors. I just would walk up to what was presumably a fence, and I kind of that just kicks right over. I just walk on through. And so for me, I went to a convention and stood in line to talk to Johnny on Bosch, and I had my little pitch, and I just waited in line and ended up getting in front of him. And, I think I bought something just a piece, and I was like, hey man, I'm making this thing. Showed it to him, and I was like, if you are interested, I'd love to have you do a voice for me. And he was just like, this is really cool, man. And he gave me his email, and then we connected. And then he actually introduced me to Christina B. and he's the one that brought Christina D onto the project. James Arnold Taylor is someone who this is a funny story. This is actually a pretty good story. So, our CEO for Colossal Entertainment is a guy named Brad Gibson. He's amazing. He's been with us this whole way, been someone who has been there to help us financially when we as a family, because we sold the farm for this thing, for Gabriel. I tapped my pension, I quit Chase, we did it. And so when we got down to the bare bones, Brad's always been there to kind of come in and say, hey guys, don't worry, I'm not gonna let your house foreclose or anything. And so he works with a band called 21 Pilots. He's their business manager, and then he started working with us. And so he had a friend named Dan Hasseltine, who was the lead singer of a band called Jars of Clay. Yeah. And so he was like, hey, do you want to have coffee with Dan Hasseltine? He's in town, in Columbus. I was like, heck yeah, I do. I love Jars of Clay. I was like, this is crazy. My wife was very excited because she really loved Jars of Clay. She got a picture with him when we were. So anyway, we met up for coffee, and he was really interested. For those who don't know, he actually now is a composer, and he composes the music for The Chosen. And so we were just talking about Angel, and talking about, just some of the people that we knew coincidentally. And then he was like, I actually have a neighbor who does cartoon voices. And I was like, oh boy. At that point, I had so many people that had a brother or a friend who was like, they do cartoon voices. It was like, and sometimes they're really good, and sometimes they're not really good at all. And so I was like, all right, well, cool. But it's Dan, that's the team. I was like, well, what am I going to say, no? So I was like, yeah, dude, I'll meet with your neighbor. He makes the introduction, and it's James Arnold Taylor.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so that's my story.
Yeah, so mine's not as cool as that. Lore.tv is the distribution and funding platform that picked up Early Biblical, and they know people, and they make connections. So they just said, do you know who James Arnold Taylor is? I was like, yes. And they said, would you like to meet him? So it was a lot easier than that. But it is pretty.
You were less suspicious. I was like, who is this guy?
It is so funny though,
Is
because
this
as you get to know people and you work with people, like my kids forever just thought everybody was a creator or something, because I'd be like, hey, this is my good friend Jason, he animated Jumba and Lilo and Stitch. So when they would meet my friends, they'd be like, what did you work on? What movie did you work on? Who did you animate? And I'm like, not everyone's done that. But
When you met James, when you first met him, did he go, hello there?
yes.
Yes.
Yeah, but he's awesome, and he was in Orlando, so we met at Star Wars Land in Batu, and I'm like, you guys have no idea
That's so cool.
who I'm with right now. It was amazing. Like on the ride, it's his voice. He's Lieutenant Dad.
Yeah.
And that's awesome. So,
That's
it's
so
pretty awesome.
cool.
But Lore has been so helpful in making connections for me, and I was told by Lore to share that if anyone signs up the next 2 weeks with the code REACH, you will get a not only a free week trial, but also 10% off your first month of subscription. And the cool thing about Lore is your subscription money doesn't just go to Lore, it actually goes to the TV shows and movies that you want produced. So not only will you be funding your monthly subscription, but you're actually able to pick Barely Biblical as the recipient of what they call a loot. And it's not only can you give the loot from your subscription, but you can actually give gold loot, which is bonuses, and it actually helps the show fund faster. But not only are they doing animation, live action TV shows, and feature films, I'm actually announcing this for the first time, they are getting into game development and funding for game development. So if anyone is looking to get your game developed, there may be a slide for this, but games@lore.tv is who you email to talk to about getting your game funded. They're Christian focused mainly, but they allow teddy bears to kill each other on screens, so they're open.
Yeah, I've definitely gonna show my baby cousins tonight.
I've
Let's
met the
go.
Lord guys, I've met Marcus, and
Yeah.
they're good guys. So to just wrap up that question, I think that to me, don't let anybody stop you from doing it. Like, it's fine. Don't be afraid of a no. I guess it's all is like, because if you let the potentiality of the no stop you from doing something, you'll never do anything, right? And so I just look at everything as it's either a 1 or it's either a 0 or a 1, and neither one of those numbers are necessarily bad. It's just it is the connection to the next. It's I've said this before, but every no is just a data point to my yes that I'm trying to get to, and I learned something there, and now I know that however I approached that thing that ended up being a no, now I know what it took to get that, and it gives me data on where I want to go to. And so, if you got somebody that you want to work with, try to reach out to them. Just because it feels like you can doesn't mean you actually can.
Absolutely.
So yeah.
You never know who knows who.
You never know.
Like 20 years ago, I was in a Bible study, and they went around. The icebreaker was, if you could meet anyone in the world, who would you want to meet? And at the time, I was really into a Japanese band called M-Flow, and the head rapper on that is a believer. His name's Verbal. And I said, I really want to meet Verbal from M-Flow. And someone there said, oh, I know him. And I was like, what do you mean you know him? We went to college together in Boston. And I was like, what? I was going to Japan 3 months later. They connected. He took me to church. He and his wife took me to church to eat. And I got to hang out with him. And, just because I spoke up and said, what I'd like to meet.
Has anybody here ever heard of FGTV? FGTV? So FGTV is one of the biggest YouTubers. I mean, they've got billions of views. And my boys were huge FGTV fans. And they got, that was like a YouTube brand that got so big that they started selling their merch at like Hot Topic and all kinds of stuff. And so I was, same thing, I just was like, I don't know that I'm not allowed to try to reach out to this person. So I found them on Instagram. I sent them a message, and they responded, and then we hopped on a Zoom call and started chatting, and now I have a line of communication connection to this really huge influencer, and so you just never know. You never know who might like what you're doing.
Absolutely, yeah.
So, yeah. Cool. Any other questions? Oh, we got it.
I'm on my way.
I'm making it work. Woo-hoo. Making it work. I'm going.
Right before Q&A, you said, Lord, I don't know how to start an animation studio, but I'm in. So, how did you know, or what made you believe that this was your calling, that this is what God wanted you to do?
That's a good question. I think that, and for a long time, I kind of resigned to, well, maybe not, maybe this isn't. I felt it as a kid, pretty much all the way up until I was in my early 20s. I was pretty convinced. I even would like, when I was broke, in my early 20s, I'd be like, tell friends, I'd be like, hey, I'll give you a colossal buck if you buy my cheeseburger, and one day that colossal buck will be worth something, because I was so convinced that I was going to do this thing, and then you kind of hit the world, and you go, okay, well, maybe not, but I think that again, it's all about timing, and so when I got to a place of surrender. Honestly, when I got to a place of going, you know what? I am happy and I have the joy of the Lord, no matter what I'm doing. Even if I'm not going to do the thing that I really dreamed of doing, I feel peace and I feel joy about my life. And I really did. I was not unhappy. I actually gotten really into worship. And so my life, I was in the middle of recording a worship album. We were doing huge worship events in our region when everything went down with COVID. It wasn't even on my mind. But I think that there was a certain kind of deep-seated knowing in my spirit when I started drawing these characters, and it turned into this idea of Gabriel.
Set me up for where I am. If I had said yes, who knows, I might still be working there and doing horrible things, and who knows where I might have ended up. So that thing that felt like a failure, a loss, and even an opportunity a forsaken opportunity, that it turned out to be exactly where I needed to be.
That's good.
I think that if the word talks about if there's something that you want, that all you need to do is ask the Lord. But then I think it's Paul who expounds on it and basically says, ask of the Lord with repetitive prayer and petitioning, right? Don't let the reality, because I think Paul saw the reality up against the truth in his heart and how those things seemed at odds at times. And so he saw that there was some partnership in faith where we are a part of bringing that truth to fruition through our faith and continual belief and asking and petitioning in prayer for
That's
what we want.
amazing, because what I've learned is that God can do everything without us, but He wants us in it. He can share the gospel with us. He can write the gospel in the sky, right? But why does He want us involved in it? It's because He loves relationship.
Yeah.
And He loves us. And we are able to do these things. When I go to work, when I sit down and start drawing on my screen, I am saying, Holy Spirit, let's do this.
Yeah.
Let's draw together. Let's make this cartoon. And a lot of people, like Christians, are scoffing at what I do. And they tell me, cartoons aren't going to save the world. We need to take Washington and things like that. I'm like, you don't understand that cartoons touch hearts. And 100 generations from now, people will be different because of cartoons that are watched.
Yep.
Sorry, but it's true.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that we were created to be creative, and we all have the heart of a God who is a storyteller, right? And so it's deep in us to want to tell stories and be creative, and that doesn't mean just drawing or even writing or making music. I think that creativity is the desire to bring to fruition something.
Yeah, make
right?
something that didn't exist before.
Yeah, and yeah, so.
Something that I thought of recently is that everything in a cell phone, everything that exists in a cell phone has existed since creation. Mm-hmm. But it took shoulders and standing on other people's shoulders, working your way up, everybody working together to be able to make a cell phone. But everything, God knew what would be needed for cell phones when He created the universe. And so that same thing, we took dirt, basically it's dirt, right? It's rare earth metals, and we turn it into cell phones. The same kind of thing happens when we tell stories, when we bring imagery to the stories, sound, voices. We're doing something that we're using what exists to make something that's never existed before.
Yeah. Yeah, partnership, I think, is a big part of what it is that the Lord, it's like, why? Why doesn't He just do it all? And it's like, well, because He is so, in the same way that I don't want to always do for my kids, right? Because it's actually adversity that sharpens their character into becoming a functional person, right? And I think that it's the same thing with the Lord. Why doesn't the Lord just do it all for us? Well, because He is interested in fashioning and sharpening us into functional people, right? Who are full and like we are just absolutely. He talks about the fullness of the Lord and being a complete person. That is how it happens. Our character has to be refined. And the word says that our character is refined through trials. Right?
Absolutely. And not only does God want the relationship of us with Him, but He also wants the overflow of that relationship to go into the relationships around us. So one of the first things I started doing when I started to be able to make my own cartoon was hire my friends who I'd worked with before. and said, hey, we work together on this. And not all of them are believers. A lot of the animators that I work with are just friends I work with on other projects or people I met in the industry, and I became good friends with them. And they're not yet believers, but I know bringing them onto the project is an opportunity for them. And it's a blessing for me as well to have these high-skilled people to be working on these projects. So out of the relationship and the love that I receive from God, I'm able to overflow that love onto them.
I don't know, this is coming to my mind, but something I heard this somewhere, and I don't remember. It was listening to some podcast, and the guy talked about how a good father brings his kids to work and lets them learn, not because he needs them to get the job done. He doesn't. He can do it. But he is creating a safe environment for the child to come and, one, be with him, just be with him in what he does, but also learn how to be as well. Yeah.
And if you look back at human history, up until the industrialization age, we were working with our families on whatever, a farm or sewing or whatever people did as a family. That was the thing. So you brought your kids in, and many of you may have seen. I was able to bring my kids to this conference, and there, my daughter loves animation, my son loves music, and
Oh, I love that.
The tools that they have now, I could have only dreamed of having when I was their age, and so we're embracing that as a way of also extending God's fatherly relationship to me to the next generation.
That's cool. We only got a few minutes left, but I did want to show you guys. So just
Oh my
to
God,
play on
yes,
this,
I
so
love
this is
these
some
designs.
Early designs of Gabriel. This
I
is
love
like
them so much.
right in 2020 when I first started drawing Gabriel, and you can see he looks pretty different. And that was about that was about the top of my ability.
And he was
at
still
the
a
time
cinnamon roll.
to draw. I was a fine artist, but I wasn't refined, and I hadn't learned what it is to kind of go through the process of character design. But within about a year and a half, I was able to kind of move into. So there's about a year later, I had shifted the designs, and I was drawing a little bit better. And then after about so there's still some early stuff. And then about a year after that, so about 2 years, I kind of really, I still did this, but landed right after a process of both getting better at drawing and really studying character sheets and character design and what all is entailed in doing character designs. And so I just wanted to show, if you just commit to it and put the work in, I put hours and hours and hours. I grew up drawing. So at first I was like, should I even be doing this if I'm not good enough to do the character design? But I just started learning from anybody. I literally downloaded a really cool character design course. It was like a 10-hour character design course, and learned, at 40 years old. I was like, I'm gonna just, and most people I knew was like, you're already a really good artist. Why would you?
Yeah, that's the funny thing. I know animation from, concept text until finished production, but I do tutorials at least once a week. I spend some time in some kind of tutorial from people who are more focused on things that I need to improve on. So never stop learning.
Never stop learning. Yeah, yeah. So I guess maybe we do see if there's any other questions. We've got 4 minutes left. Any other questions? Oh, yeah.
At one point you said something about pitching your babies to other companies, and I was kind of wondering what you meant by that.
So by babies, I mean your story ideas, your IP, or whatever your concept is that you have. Just be careful who you present them to, because there are idea thieves out there. One of the things I love about Lore is they recognize that the studios, the producers, they only have a big pile of money. They don't have the most valuable thing, which is our stories. our characters. Those things are so much more valuable than the money. Now, we want the money because we want to feed ourselves and our kids and things like that, but really, we don't, they value what we have more than money. And so whenever you go into a meeting to pitch your idea, always remember why you're there. These are not the gods of storytelling. These are just people who happen to have control of money. There's only one God of storytelling.
I think I can actually maybe shed a little bit of light from my perspective on what you said there, because I think I actually walked this out in that if I could do it again, I don't know that I would have pitched. I don't know that I would have started pitching Gabriel. I think I would have held Gabe over here and pitched something else that I had a little less love for. You know, it's just this thing because it's the first one.
Oh yay,
and
I'm
you
a
have to,
sacrifice.
you have to cut the baby apart to some extent to get it done. And
Sacrifice.
I think I would have pitched something that felt a little less like a part of me for my first go. And I've been told that actually by other producers at this point. They're like, yeah, you probably should have come up with your great idea, and then come up with another idea that's still really good, but something that you don't love quite as dearly, because that first one, you're probably going to have to either let go or cut up. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Well, I did have a couple of slides. I don't know if they ever got up there, but I wanted to share that the Early Biblical Trading Card game coming out next year. The series 1 is called, I'm actually delivering them as seasons, tied to the fact that it's from a cartoon. Season 1 is called The Sons of the Anakim. It is focused on the Nephilim descendants, the giants, the Goliath, his brothers, and all of the giants that are mentioned in scriptures. And they're the wrath bearers in the game, and the faith bearers are the people of God. And you can play as either. If you want to be a wrath bearer for a game, you can. You can also be a faith bearer. Because a lot of times within Christian games, we stick to just the good guys. But I did want to just mention that because I wanted to let that be known first here at Reach. And the other thing is that the story for episode 3 of Early Biblical is Sisera goes to Jael. Now, Jael is a woman of God who has an opportunity to take out a commander from the Canaanites, and it is an awesome story. Please check it out in the Bible and get ready for that episode, which you can fund and then watch at Lord.tv.
Nice. Okay, we're at 11.
That's time. But can we get a big round of applause for these two legendary, absolutely leaders in their field? So grateful.